Hi, I'm Brian Floyd, Cabarrus County native and Army veteran. Thank you for joining us for this year's Tribute to Veterans, a joint program of Cabarrus County Veterans Services Department, the Boys and Girls Club of Cabarrus County, and the City of Concord. In normal years, we have an inspiring in-person celebration at the Boys and Girls Club. Of course, this year is anything but normal. We've changed course due to COVID-19, and this year we're bringing local veteran stories to you. You'll soon meet some amazing people. Dot Cole, Curtis Clark, Ruth Brooks, and Gary Mallernee are all Cabarrus residents who served our country. We're bringing you these stories as a tribute to all who served and to show how that service has impacted their lives. In keeping with the flow of the normal event, we'll start with a presentation of colors by members of the City of Kannapolis Police and Fire Departments, along with a rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance by Northwest Cabarrus Middle School student Zariah York.
Ready, march! Post. Post.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks to the Kannapolis Police and Fire Departments and to Zariah. Now let's move on to an absolute treasure of our community. Dorothy Cole of Kannapolis recently reached another in a long line of amazing milestones. She is now the oldest living Marine in the United States of America. Here's more about Dot and her service.
A common question for those who cross the century mark is what advice they have for others. For Dorothy Cole, better known as Dot, that's a simple list. According to daughter Beth Klutz, Dot follows 4 rules. Be kind, love God and follow His commandments, eat lots of chocolate, and enjoy a glass of red wine with dinner. In September, Dot celebrated birthday number 107, enjoying the day in her full Marine Corps League attire. Now rewind some 75 years to a time when few women served in the military. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, Dot decided she wanted to do something. That something came in the form of an enlistment with the Marine Corps. Dot spent 6 weeks training at Camp Lejeune with the Marine Corps Women's Reserves. She was part of a female integration within the Corps during World War II, according to the Marines. Her service helped free up personnel to fight in the Pacific. Dot was stationed at Quantico and served from 1943 to 1945. While there, she filled a variety of administrative roles, while future husband, Wiley Cole, served with the Navy on the USS Hornet. While relatively brief, the military experience left a lasting impact on Dot's life. It deepened her love of country and service, which remains to this day.
She's an incredible lady. Thanks for your service, Dot. For our next profile, we'll visit with Vietnam veteran Curtis Clark. Curtis fought in several major battles and received a variety of commendations during his military career. He joined us to talk about his experiences and explain what his service meant to him.
Foxtrot Ridge. That was my first battle. We were patrolling near the Laotian border, the mountains there and everything else, and Foxtrot Ridge was actually a resting point for us. We had dug in up on Foxtrot Ridge, and it was at night. Everything was quiet, and then all hell broke loose. I mean, there was just huge explosions. The deal was, they knew we were there, but they didn't know where we were. We were not to fire our rifles, because then they would pinpoint us and come in. The only thing they did was they gave us a bunch of hand grenades. And the elephant grass was so tall, so you can't see. All you can do is listen. So if someone got what we figured was too close, we would throw a hand grenade straight up and let it come down so they won't know what direction it came from through the elephant grass. And that's the only defense we had. We heard a jet coming. And then we heard a pop. That pop meant to us that something had just been dropped. So when we looked up, we saw these silver canisters coming at us. And we jumped up and started running. It hit this, like it was just sucking all the air out. The heat was bad. My clothes got on fire. I'm stripping off my clothes. The only thing I left that area with was my rifle and my ammunition. We were about to be overran. So the captain had ordered napalm. The napalm was dropped. We waited for a while, and then we retook the hill, charged up the hill, and got it back. That firefight, it got rid of the fear, if you will. When the bullets start flying and things start exploding and the confusion and everything else, dust flying all over the place, you focus on what you were trained to do and you'll be okay. But if you're worried about this, that, and the other, you could get hurt or killed. After Foxtrot Ridge, we got a minor break and we went back to the bridge. Now, while we were at the bridge, another Army convoy comes through. They had been ambushed. One of their members fell off the truck. But in that situation, the trucks don't stop. They got to keep going. And we were assigned to go down and get them. So we took a fire team down. We know we're walking into a spot where there is an ambush, or was one. So we know in our mind that they're waiting on us to come and get him. We get to where he fell off the truck and we see drag marks that went into the bush. So we follow the drag marsh, and then there's just like this little pond, if you will, and we found him sitting there with his back to us, but it didn't feel right. So we searched the area, okay, and feel confident that so far there's no danger. And when we got to him, he had been shot through the neck and he had been propped for an ambush. That ambush was set up for us. When they found out it was the Marines, they canceled the ambush. So we were able to retrieve his body and bring it back. We moved to a village called Mylock. There was one Marine, his name was Raymond Baldog. We called him Baby Huey. And if you ever watch the cartoons with Baby Huey, big, good heart, but just always seemed to mess up. Well, one night we set up a series of ambushes. I was in charge of that team. And we're walking through the village. It's pitch dark, can't see a thing. And we're spread out about 5 yards apiece. So that made a long line. Huey was on point. All of a sudden it comes to a stop, which is normal. Huey probably noticed something. When I get to the Vietnamese that were behind Huey wasn't there. And I asked him, where is Huey? And he said, VC, VC. And about that time I looked up ahead of me and I can see his shadow, Huey's, and he's turning. And then I see a flash. Under that hut was a Viet Cong. And he had stuck his rifle in Huey's stomach and fired. Huey's laying there and he's yelling and he's screaming. So I started crawling toward him. And I thought he was just delirious. But what he was telling me was, do not come. And then he reached in and he grabbed a flare. and he popped it up. And there were an ambush team out there. So I tell him, just lay down, stay there, Huey, don't do anything. And I'm still crawling. But he knew that I was crawling into danger, so he popped another fire. When they did that, they opened fire on him again. And he died. But he risked his life to save mine. When we get back, I tell the lieutenant that he deserved the medal. But we had a new lieutenant, and he'd already caught hell for the ambush that went bad. So, if his relatives are out there, he died a hero without a medal. Lance Corporal Raymond Baldog, killed in action, 1969 in Maylock. And I've been trying to write his parents, and every time I do, I just can't finish the letter. I just can't do it. And now it's been so long, you know, I'm thinking even if I write it, I don't want to bring him that pain. Hopefully somebody in his family will see this and know that he died a hero. You asked me about what influence the Marine Corps had on my life, and I said it enhanced my mother's training. When General Jones invited me to his inauguration as Commandant of the Marine Corps, he invited the whole unit that was on Foxtrot Ridge. And he had us stand up in front of all those cameras with the whole world watching and told the entire Marine Corps that they had to live up to the honor and duty that we have accomplished. And that was the greatest moment in my life.
Thank you for sharing your amazing story with us, Curtis. Ruth Brooks is a United States Marine who continues to live a life of service. For years, she's given back by mentoring young Cabarrus County residents and preparing them for their future. Here's more about Ruth and her service to the country and the community.
As a little girl growing up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Ruth Brooks would often see military personnel around town. She knew even then that might be her path. Years later, as a student at Barber Scotia College in Concord, Ruth was working towards a degree when a U.S. Marine recruiter approached her. That's all it took. In 1972, she became the 8th African-American woman to join the Marine Corps as an officer and the first to be a dispersing officer, managing a payroll of more than $1 million.
It really was a good experience for me because it gave me a better opportunity than what I was going in.
That military experience shaped her future in a variety of ways. Over the past 3 decades, Ruth's passion project has been front and center in her life. She devotes much of her time to the Multicultural Community Student Union, which she helped launch 32 years ago. The organization started as a community choir and has grown into a summer camp and weekly activities for local youth to provide experiences they may not normally receive. Ruth's tough love approach, honed during her time with the Marines, has helped her reach hundreds of young people through the years.
I'm really thankful that I made that choice. I just had a full life of what I always wanted to do.
Thank you, Ruth. You're an inspiration for so many. Finally, let's meet Vietnam veteran Gary Mallernee, who piloted helicopters during the war and served a long military career before retiring in 1985.
I had always wanted to be a pilot. After flight school, we had 16 weeks at Fort Walters, Texas, and then was transferred over to Fort Rucker, Alabama, where I transitioned into the Hueys. 30-day leave and right straight to Vietnam. I was assigned to the 1st Air Cab Division. I was with B Company, 227th Aviation. I flew everything from logistics to medevac to command and control to combat assaults, you name it, we did it. I think the most gratifying was when I would pull a medevac, getting the wounded back to the hospitals. My experience flying in a combat situation is one of exhilaration, trepidation, just excitement, adrenaline rush. When you're coming in on a combat assault initially, they would prep the landing zone with artillery for about 10 minutes. When we were on final, coming into the LZ, they would have the Cobras that escorted us. They would fire their rockets along the tree lines, and then we would land, and of course the troops would get off and create a perimeter. And then we would go back and pick up more troops and bring it in. That was like a round robin. That initial assault is quite an adrenaline rush, waiting for, to see if there's actually enemy in the tree line. The day I was shot, I was over there on my 2nd tour. It was a mountaintop. Down in the 3 Corps area, it was relatively flat like it is around Kannapolis, slow rolling hills. But there were 2 mountains that stuck up like sore thumbs. There was Nui Bar Ra and Nui Ba Din was their names. The Americans had a radio relay on top of Nui Ba Din. And there were 5 Americans up there, and it was protected by a company of Vietnamese troops. Well, in 1972, when the NVA came across the border, and they wanted the top of that mountain for their own radio relay. So the NVA was coming up the side of the mountain. The people up there called for evacuation, so they called on the cab to do it. And everybody was taking fire going in. Well, here I am coming in number 5. And just as we were landing, we had an NVA pop up from behind a rock over here at the mountaintop, and I took one right through the elbow. Well, the other pilot was able to take the aircraft and get us off the top of the mountain real quick. Later, they said that they counted 60 entrance holes into the aircraft. There were 3 ARVN troops that we were taking in to reinforce. They never made it off the aircraft. The gunner on my side took a round right in the center of his breastplate that he was wearing. From the time I was shot to the time I was laying on a hospital in the emergency room was an hour and 15 minutes. I ended up with limited range of motion on my elbow, and that disqualified me from flying. The Department of the Army come in and says, what would you like to do? And I come up with either a property book officer or automotive maintenance. And since I grew up on a farm around doing a lot of my own maintenance on the tractors and stuff, that's what I picked. And they sent me to Aberdeen Proving Ground to retrain as an automotive maintenance tech, and I started running motor pools after that. I retired after 16 and a half years as a CW4, and as warrants go, at the time, that was as high as you could go. They couldn't promote me anymore. 1970, when we went across the border into Cambodia, F-4s were bombing, and everything. They had Cobras coming in. I'm listening to all this on the radio because I'm flying to the south. This is happening to the north. And they called for medevac. Well, the medevac came in. He's taking fire, going in. He come out and he said, man, that's a hot LZ. I got holes all in this aircraft. Well, we were just landing and I had just shut down. The blade had almost stopped. And this private come running out of the LZ. He said, they just revived the Line 1. Now, Line 1 was a dead man. They said he just revived him. Would I go out and pick him up? Oh, we started right back up. I called the Air Force FAC upstairs and I says, hey, this is where I'm at. We got a Line 1 that they revived. We're going to pick him up. You got anything inbound that kind of lay suppressive fire? He says, I got 2 F4s that'll be here in about 30 seconds. I said, Roger, I'm going to pick up to 500 feet, make my approach. I lifted up, started my approach. These 2 F4s flew by me like I was standing still. Exploded everything, right? We go in and out of this LZ, took no fire, took no hits. As we were coming back out, I turned the aircraft over to the other pilot and something hit my elbow. And I looked around and there's a man sitting right here between the seats. And I says, hey, Chief, who's this sitting up here in between us? He said, well, that's a chaplain. I said, oh, thank you, sir.
They sent him with you, huh?
Yeah, and the chaplain got on board and we took no fire. And I said, oh, thank you, sir. My service, it's kind of hard to explain. You have pride in what you do, a sense of accomplishment. Just knowing the people and the places that I've went, Germany, Alaska, seeing things that a lot of people will never have a chance. The service gave me a new perspective on what it means to serve, really. And that's what I tried to live by, how to serve. It's humbling. To be honored every year at Veterans Day and Memorial Day are the two biggies. To see so many people that will thank you and praise you for your service. And that's the only word I can come up with is humble.
Thank you, Gary, for your dedication and service. We hope these stories have served as a tribute to the service and sacrifice that all veterans make. And now one final thought from me. I've seen the world, and there's no doubt that we live in the greatest country there is, and that's why my fellow veterans put it on the line for this country. As a combat infantryman in the United States Army, my mission was to close with and destroy the enemy, and I did exactly that. I've looked that enemy in the eye, closer than you're looking at me now. Many of the veterans I'm speaking to now have as well. I know exactly who my enemy is, and make no mistake, it is not my fellow American. We are neighbors, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters, all with differing views and opinions. Those differing opinions and the freedom to have them are essential to our democracy. The best way you can honor our veterans is to honor that democracy they fought to protect and respect each other. Thanks so much for watching. God bless our current service members, God bless our veterans, and God bless the United States of America.
Port arms. Ready? March. Ready? March.